Welcome back, dear viewers. This is watching the Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. It's now time for our first topic of discussion for today. And as we noted earlier in our introduction, we're going to be talking about the meeting held recently between the Egyptian Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, and the delegation of the African United Cities and Local Governments Organization, UCLG. And Prime Minister Madbouli asserted Egypt's full commitment to everything that elevates the African continent within the framework of achieving the Africa Agenda 2063. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Mr. Abdullah Kagamal, African Youth Ambassador. A very good morning, Mr. Abdullah, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Well, first of all, Mr. Abdullah, how do you see Egypt's endeavors to put all its experiences in the service of the African countries?
If you see African countries, the good idea with African countries is the love and concern that all African countries shows to each other. And I think Egypt is a good example of that. I think Egypt always, the first way or the first things Egypt try to do whenever Egypt got a new idea or a new experience or a new, what do you call it, teens used to see their brothers, which is Africans. And I think when African Union show the agenda of, like you said now, of 2063, the Sustainable Development, etc. I think within that period of time, just sometimes little time, Egyptian too try to show their agenda 2030. I think if you see African Union or Egypt, you will see whatever African Union did, you will see that Egypt following them one after, or they are proving what the agendas or what African Union try to do. And if you see Egypt, like you said now, always you see the World Youth Forum. I think the African presence, youth in the forum we attended, and before that, African youths try to have what do you call it, a little summit with the president. And after that, President Abdel Fattah Sisi tried to even link African, Arab, what do you call it, youths. I think all these things show us that Egypt from day one, from the time of the ancients, what do you call it, Jamal Abdel Nasser, if you see the establishment of African Union, all this going through all what Africans go through, you'll see that Egypt is in the top of the countries that try to help, try to guide, try to what they call it, show. And if you see in cultural, I think this year the title of African Union, this thing is African, is a heritage, African Heritage Year of African Union. And you see that Egyptian just a few months, 2 months back, they opened a new museum, new district. I think if you see Egypt always is in the beginning or in the top of all the ideas, all the what they call it, things that African Union try to do in Africa, and to help or to guide or to show the concerns and experience within the African countries.
Mr. Abdullah, why is it a must, in your opinion, for Africa to achieve development? Why do you think it's necessary?
It's necessary. African, I think now in the world, I think the Africa is what do you call it, all eyes are on Africa. And if you see the natural resources that we have in Africa, all these human resources, natural resources, I think we have many things in Africa that Africans really needs to be happy. Africans really needs to be to develop. But what makes us to establish or to do this or to reach this prosperity is if we look each other with what we got good manners, if we see each other as we can. And if you see Egypt, the leadership of President Abdel Fattah Sisi try to show youths and try to give hope, I think hope to African, what do you call it, developments and African things that yes, we can do. Yes, we can. If you see this coronavirus issues that was happening in 1 year back in Africa, and at this crucial time, you will see that Egypt are developing. If you see the way Egypt try to establish and try to do many, what do you call it, works in this time that many people are closed up or are not doing anything, but Egypt are trying to develop. I think Africa needs to be developed and needs to benefit from each other. For example, we have many countries like Nigeria, South Africa. We have a good example of developments in Africa like Rwanda. All this, and Egypt. All these countries are countries that has, what we call it, many experience that we need to have this brotherhood. We need to have this, what we call it, reach the prosperity and development in the giving and taking. I think to give our experience to our brothers, African countries, brothers, and to take the experience of other countries of Africa. When African countries united and African countries try to show concern and try to do things together, I think Africa will be developed and Africa will be more and what they call it awareness, and Africa will reach the prosperity that we need.
Yes, Mr. Abdullah, picking on what you just said and the importance of development, how do you see the importance of development and investment in facing challenges facing the continent, such as illegal immigration, extremism, and terrorism?
Yeah, if you see, we have that investment, African investment, free trade, what we call it, that was begin in January 2021. I think all these developments and things that makes Africa to be developed. If you see the Cairo, Cape Town, what we call it, free trade, or the way that wants to link Africa. And I think Egypt and President Abdul Fattah Sisi, they emphasize on, he always in his speech with youths even, he used to tell us that he loves to see this, to achieve this goal of African free trade, investment, and what they call it. And this one will show us that Africa or African leaders has the intention to help, has the intention to build Africa, has the intention to reach Africa the prosperity and sustainable developments that we need. And I think this one is not a day work. People are just trying to say that always the leaders are giving good or positive speech, but we are not seeing. I used to say to our youth that that the government's work or the continents like Africa, the regional or etc. goals are not projects that will just see the positive, what do you call it. If you see the African Union, establishment of African Union started from the time of Jamal Abdel Nasser, and now we are looking at developments like free trade, investment, etc. I think things of government and continent like Africa needs time, needs to have the partnership or the cooperation with countries, the youth, the what do you call it, people that has the experience, the people that will show up in these organizations, East African Union organizations, United, what do you call it, regional, that's African local governments, institutions of Africa, the West African, what do you have, ECOWAS, and all these things try to, what do you call it, come together to be in under one umbrella, which is African Union, with our great leaders. I think Africa and developments will show up in just short time if we tried to do more. Yeah.
Mr. Abdullah, also, how do you see the choice of Egypt for the establishment of the headquarters of the organization's regional office for North Africa to be located in Cairo?
If you see the United, what they call local governments for organization, this is an organization that was established in 2005, and in South Africa, and this one with now for 44 national what we call it institutions which come together to make this organization, and it represents about 2,000 cities of Africa, which is covered local governments or areas that has more than 100,000 inhabitants in within it, and it covers about 350 million what do you call it citizens in Africa, the local government, the United Local Governments Organization, and I think trying to make this, and the headquarters is in Morocco, the Kingdom of Morocco, and they are doing well to see what do you call it, to empower the understanding and what do you call it in research and training, and to boost what do you call it sustainable developments, and to boost awareness and to build African local governments in the root of the green what do you call it issue. And I think to make the North African office here in Egypt, this is a very good idea for us. If we see that in Egypt now, the headquarters of Arab League is in Egypt, and for North African countries that used to or that speaks Arabic languages more, I think if we have Africans organizations and Africans offices here in Egypt, that will give us the room to have the what they call it, the cooperation and the partnership with Arab African what they call it discussions and developments. Always Egypt are looking forward to make African and Arab countries together, to come together. And I think in all African countries, we don't have country, or we don't have that place that that show concern, or that has that condition to make Arab and African what they call it discussions or to developments. And if you see African and Arab countries, we have the same problems. For example, our problems, health problem, what do you call it, security problem, etc. We have the same things, ideas that we need to share. And I think to the idea of bringing or establishing office of North African this region, this thing in Egypt, this is a very good idea that I think if they do, they will not regret it. If they do it, or if they establish it, I think they will see the positive outcomes in the day coming.
Yes. Mr. Abdullah, also, how do you evaluate Egypt's endeavors to put all its experiences in the service of the sisterly African country?
Yeah, I think Egypt always, I'm saying that nothing to say to Egypt rather than to thanks, what do you call it, Egyptian governments and Egyptian people for them to do, because you know, a country that try to show a regional or concern to the continent is not an easy thing. I think Egypt moved through many what the conditions that if it is another country, it can't even what do you call it, try to consist their own problems, but Egypt go ahead. We have each country in Africa or Arab countries or in the world, we have the inner problems. I think Egypt will have security issue, etc. issues, but Egypt governments try to consume their own problem and solve it and go ahead to see the African problems or Arab problems. I think this is a good way of what they call it Egyptian governments. And nowadays I'm hearing the new republic or something like that. Yeah. And I think Egypt what they deserve. Egypt deserve to have this what they call it the place or the developments, or we as African youths, as African countries or African leaders, we need to give positive what we call it movements to Egyptian, and to thank Egyptian governments and Egyptian what we call it people, and to try to cooperate with Egyptian for us to have what they call it, that Africa that we want, that Africa that we need, that Africa that we are always dreaming to have. Yeah.
Mr. Abdullah, how do you see the importance of the project of the Road Cairo Cape Town in achieving economic integration between Egypt and the continent? And Egypt, as you may know, is now the center of the and a hub for the production of coronavirus vaccines. How can the African continent benefit from that?
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, Egypt, Cape Town, this issue, investment of Egyptian, African free trade, the inter-African or intra-African, what do you call it, free trade zone agreements. I think, and this vaccine issue in Egypt, I think all these things show us that Egypt in all aspects are not what they call it sleeping. I think in health, what they call it, progress, I think Egypt in research, what they call it in health, education, all these things show that Egypt can do this. And African, whenever Egypt show up to establish things, or Egypt show up to do what they call it a new issue, what I advise African countries is to wait and see, or to give cooperation to Egyptian, because we know that Egypt, if they say things, we see things happening. Always I'm saying that African dream in some countries or in some regional places, if you see our youth, we have one discussions that they are saying African dream. They used to say it's dream, but I said no, in Egypt, Africa is not a dream, and Egypt is what they call it, progress is not, or projects are not dream. But if you stay 1 year in Egypt, you'll know that African and or what they call it, the projects are not dream, because you will be seeing things happening within your eyes vision. And I think this is very good things that we need, or we advise Africans to show up, and Egyptian governments to continue with this good, what do you call it, things that they are doing.
Yes. Mr. Abdullah, also if you can tell us about the role of the different initiatives launched by Egypt to boost the Egyptian-African ties, like the initiative entitled Egypt's Voice in Africa.
Yeah, if you see the initiatives, when President Abdul Fattah Sisi became African, what do you call it, chairman, I think you will see always we youths, we don't even have time to rest. You'll see this institution will call you, this initiative will call you, you will go to attend Africa. I think you will see that Egypt, I think in African and even Arab countries, they are the more country, or the first, if I can say, the first country that try to organize, to bring up experience of what they call it, conferences and the initiatives. I think now we have not even thousands, we can say even millions of what they call it, in different initiatives in Egypt. The government initiative, like you'll see the government health, what do you call it, initiative. You'll see that governments and ministries has their own initiatives. The Egyptian youth has their own initiative. The what we call it, universities will have their own initiatives, and all these initiatives is not local or national initiatives. It was established as national what do you call it, initiatives, but in just 1 to 3 months you will see it will become international and nationwide, what do you call it, worldwide initiatives. And I think if anybody is following the news or is following the media or in social media in Egypt, I think he will prove that Egypt initiatives, or the voice of African, or Egypt, the voice of Africa, or ETC, or different initiatives like World Youth Forum, ETC, all these African, Arab, what do you call it, establishment of the initiatives. I think a person will know that Egypt initiatives are doing what they can to see that Arab and Africa countries become one, become what do you call it, countries that has or share the same view of ideas, and to make things become reality. And I think Egypt do more.
Yes. To another aspect, the cultural aspect. How do you see Egypt's keenness on boosting the cultural ties between African countries?
Yeah, if you see as African Union to title this year African Union title is the African to boost African heritage, and after this, with just 1 month or 2 months, I think this was says in February, only March, only 1 month. I just see Egypt. I saw Egypt opening a huge museum, the new museum things. These things show me that that means Egypt are thinking ahead, or I will say are moving, what do you call it, their ideas or their thinking with the huge African Union, or what do you call it, ideas. If African Union say things or establish something or wants to do something, you will just see at the same time Egyptians just grab it and make it reality. And I think African Union benefits from Egypt experience and African countries, and we need to have more cooperation. Really, always I'm advising our countries, African countries, to have some more partnership and cooperation with Egypt, because no African countries will never develop if we just stay aside and look at each other without benefiting from each other. African countries like Nigeria, South Africa, etc., all African countries has that, each country has the positive things. I think if we as African countries try to share the positive things that we have, and to our brothers and sisters, I think the things will be good, and Africa developments and will reach the prosperity.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Abdullah Kagami, African Youth Ambassador, thank you so much for your insight, and thank you so much for being with us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you so much.
And dear viewers, now we move on to a quick break, and then we'll be back to resume the remaining segments of The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International.